This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Becca Dukes, and I am excited to have you join us today. As I was looking into today's topic, I learned so much, and I know you are going to as well. Did I hear somebody? Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Let's go ahead and let people in, as yes, we are a live Zoom, and if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to go to zoom.dailywithdoc.com, but we want to make sure that you get on the list. So zoom@dailywithdoc.com so that you can get your personal invitation to our Zoom. We are here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, 3 to 4 Eastern, and at this time of the year, 10 to 11 in South Africa. Well, today is Friday. You know what we do on Fridays? It is Pharmacist Fridays, and I am so honored to be able to have Pharmacist Ben Fuchs with us, as he is a dear friend, trusted educator, a formulator, nutritional pharmacist, and one of the clearest voices in functional health, folks. So he has a remarkable way of connecting dots. And today we're going to be diving into something he's especially known for, and that's things that are supported by sulfur. But it's not just sulfur. You're going to learn a lot about how we can make sure that we are giving the body what it needs, which is the third most abundant mineral in the body, because it supports our skin. It supports metabolic systems within the body so much. But before I take it all, and joints, your digestive system, I mean, so many different things. I'm sorry, I'm just like super excited with what we are going to be learning today. So let me go ahead and bring on Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Hello, Pharmacist Ben.
Well,
How are you?
hello, Rebecca. Good to see you. So you sound like you know a lot about sulfur.
Well, you know, I was given the topic yesterday, and I just started diving in. Okay, what is it used for? How does our body utilize it? Where do we get it? What is needed for the body to be able to utilize it best? And, you know, there's
So
there's
what
a
do you
lot
know?
of people.
Tell us what you know about it.
Well, one, you can get it from your cruciferous vegetables. Okay.
Okay.
You can also onions, garlic, the smellier
The
the
stinky ones,
vegetable
stinky
is,
foods. Yes.
the stinky foods.
Yes.
You do not want to overcook them. Lightly steam. soften.
Well, but the
But you can
sulfur,
also,
the overcooking doesn't affect the sulfur. You don't want to overcook anything. That's true. But the overcooking, sulfur is a mineral. It's not going to be affected by overcooking. You know that. I mean,
okay,
that's important. Okay, but overcooking in general is something you want to avoid.
right.
Overcooking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you still want to have the structure, right?
Most importantly, as you apply heat, nutritional elements are broken down. So it's a fine line because just enough heat releases nutritional elements, but too much heat breaks them down. So you don't want to overcook. That's true, but it's not going to affect minerals. Minerals are like rocks. They're not
Right.
affected by overcooking. Vitamins mostly are, amino acids
Vitamins.
to a certain extent, and definitely fats. So, but go
Yes.
ahead,
So,
tell us more. You sounds like you know a lot of stuff.
well, and actually, when you're steaming your vegetables, you want to drink the water.
Ooh,
Okay.
where'd you hear that?
Oh, well,
Oh,
because
that's good.
whatever is released from the nutrients is caught in that
In the
water, and
water.
you don't want to let
Yeah.
anything go to waste.
That's right, especially the B vitamins, and you can use the water for like all kinds of things, for juices, for making juices for the base of your vegetable juice, or just drinking it straight. And that's absolutely correct. Particularly the B vitamins and vitamin C go into the water. But go ahead, that's you know a lot of stuff. It sounds like.
Well, but you can also get it from eggs,
That's
which
right.
and beef
Stinky.
and salmon.
Yeah.
See, but you want to make sure that you're getting good sources. So it's not like the cheapest beef you can find. You want to make sure it's grass fed because they're bringing it in from plants as well.
Yep.
So,
When you eat grass fed, you're getting all the stuff from grass, and grass is arguably some of the most powerful stuff on the planet is grass, and it's no accident that the biggest animals in the world eat grass. You know,
yeah.
elephants and gorillas and such. Human beings, however, can't get the benefits of grass because a lot of the nutrients are tied up. But when animals eat the grass, they release those nutrients, and when we eat the animals, we get those nutrients. So yes, eating animals is a great way to get the nutrients from grass. You can't just eat grass by itself and get the
No.
benefits, but you can eat the transformed grass. So that's good. You know a lot of stuff about sulfur, it sounds like. I'm impressed.
Well,
I
and it's also needed for the whole detoxification part of the
Absolutely.
body,
That's exactly right.
the liver,
That's
and
right. That's right.
needed for insulin to do what insulin's designed or
That's
produced
right.
for. It's
Yes,
like,
that's right. Isn't that
man,
interesting about insulin? Like we don't ever use MSM, which is nutritional sulfur, by the way, supplemental sulfur. We don't ever think about that for our healthy blood sugar pack, or for folks who
no.
have blood sugar issues. But yes, you're right. Because sulfur, while it is an abundant element, as you mentioned, it's actually one of the more important nutritional deficiencies. How ironic is that? That one of the more
You know,
important nutritional deficiencies is in one of the more important nutrients and in one of the most abundant nutrients. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
well, since you mentioned that, when we're looking at symptoms, a lot of the symptoms from metabolic syndrome can be attributed to, or yeah, the sulfur deficiencies.
Is I didn't realize that. That's news to me, but
And
that's new,
well, and
something new
then
to me. Did you know you read that? Or is that a fact? Sulfur
yeah, I've
deficiencies associated with metabolic syndrome?
there was the NIH had a couple of publications on that.
Okay.
There were
Okay.
a couple, let's see, I think Hopkins University,
Johns Hopkins?
John Hopkins had one.
Yeah. Okay. I
So
didn't That's
it was
all.
just
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So you just taught me
crazy.
something. Very good. Well, sulfur is incredibly important. It's one of my favorite elements. It's so active. It's so electronically active. It does come in, as you mentioned, it does exist in different forms. And each different form has its own entry point into biochemistry or metabolism. The most common way we get sulfur is from what are called sulfur amino acids, or SAAs. Methionine and cysteine are the two most important, probably, but also taurine, which is a very underappreciated amino acid. Why do you suppose methionine and cysteine as a source of sulfur, as a source of dietary sulfur, lead to sulfur deficiency? The most
Oh, I
that's
didn't.
yeah, I shouldn't ask you that
That's a
because that's kind of a
great
trick.
question.
Yeah,
I didn't
the
get that
foods that
far into my
contain
research.
methionine and cysteine tend to be more expensive.
Oh.
You don't find methionine and cysteine really in carbohydrates, although beans are a carb food, but they contain methionine and cysteine. Mostly methionine and cysteine are found in animal foods, and those are more expensive. And so methionine and cysteine as sources of sulfur amino acids, in a way, leads to sulfur deficiency. Although the most important reason why we have sulfur deficiency is because of what Dr. Wallach's been talking about for a long time, which is soil deficiency. Sulfur is leached out of acid of acidic soils, and remember they don't have talked about it for a while now that I think about it. But acid rain, remember they used to talk about acid rain a lot.
Oh yeah.
You don't hear too much about that anymore, but acid rain makes the soil acidic, and sulfur gets leached out of acidic soil. And so soil deficiencies of sulfur are the main reason why many people are deficient in sulfur, even though it is such an abundant mineral or element, more accurately stated, in the body and on planet Earth. There's also sulfur in there's also sulfur found nutritionally, which is MSM, and that is really interesting because as powerful as sulfur is, MSM, you can take as much of it as you want, and you should take grams of it a day, probably at least a gram of it a day or a couple grams, because there's no toxicity. This chemical structure or the molecular structure of MSM makes sulfur much more utilizable, and it renders it essentially non-toxic, so you can take as much of it as you want. There's also sulfate, which is a form of sulfur, which is a very important electrolyte in the body and also underappreciated. And then there's sulfite, which sometimes gets confused with sulfate, which is a substance that sometimes people can react to. And then there's also sulfur-containing vegetables, which you mentioned, garlic, onions, and the cruciferous vegetables. In fact, it's one of the most important reasons why you want the cruciferous vegetables, particularly women, because sulfur in the sulfate form plays a really important role in detoxification of a lot of things, but particularly of estrogen. And that's one reason why sometimes you'll see sulfate at the end of a nutritional supplement, like glucosamine sulfate. That's a superior form of glucosamine than glucosamine hydrochloride, which is the other form of glucosamine. So the second word after some of these substances will kind of give a chemist a peek into how utilizable that molecule is. And so sometimes you want a sulfate form, sometimes you want a hydrochloride form for utilizability in the body, but the sulfate gives you the advantage of giving you sulfur. So glucosamine sulfate, for example, gives you the advantage of not only giving you sulfur or sulfate in this case for all the benefits of sulfur, but it also gives you sulfate for making connective tissue. And I'm sure you read that in your studies, that sulfate and sulfur are a very important part of a class of molecules called GAGs, which you can think of as snot. And by the way, I've always said this, that snotty, mucousy, slimy substances have wonderful advantages, have wonderful health benefits. And anytime you ingest these slimy substances, we have a wonderful slimy product that I absolutely love called Fucoidin. Yes, absolutely. And fucoidin is a nice slimy substance that's rich in sulfate as well. So you don't necessarily need to do MSM. You could do cruciferous vegetables. You could do your onions. You could do your garlic. You can do your MSM supplement and beans and meat and food sources. And there's also bone soup, which is rich in these glycosaminoglycans. That's also a good source of sulfur. One of the most important places where sulfur plays a role is in the digestive system via its relationship to bile. And so you can see if you have a sulfur problem, you're going to have a lot of issues, detoxification issues, structural issues, immune system issues, by not being able to produce as much glycosaminoglycans, digestive issues. And then also, one of the most important places where sulfur plays a role is in the strengthening of the body's hard protein. Do you ever smell burning hair?
Oh, yeah.
What does that smell like?
Sulfur.
Sulfur, exactly. And that's because hair is given its hardness. You may not think hair is hard, but the outside part of the hair shaft, the cuticle, is made up of keratin, fingernail. And your fingernail is also keratin. And that's all hard because of sulfur. In fact, anywhere in nature where you are in biology where you see hard tissue like fish scales or reptile scales or feathers on a bird or rhino horns or deer antlers or horse hooves, that hardness is the result of sulfur. Sulfur gives tissue a certain hardness. In fact, rubber used to be very difficult to work with in the 19th century when they discovered rubber, when they were doing their when empires were colonizing the jungles in East Asia and the Philippines and such. They found the rubber plant, and the rubber plant was really cool because you could do a lot of things with rubber, but you couldn't do as many things with rubber as you could do after an invention which involved sulfur. Rubber melted. So while it was versatile, you couldn't really use it for very many things. And the guy named Charles Goodyear discovered that if he mixed the rubber with sulfur, he could harden that sulfur or harden that rubber, and that rubber could then be functional for things like tires. And in fact, that was his first invention, I think, was Goodyear tires, or at least they named the company after him. I don't know if he invented it, but he invented the process, which is called vulcanization, which is actually a factory or industrial analog of what happens in the body to harden sulfur in the factory to make hardened rubber, or to harden collagen in the body to make hard tissue. Now, I just glanced real quickly at somebody who sent a text about having a reaction to sulfur drugs. Sulfur is not sulfur. This is a very common misunderstanding that we pharmacists hear all the time when patients say, I'm allergic to sulfur. Nobody's allergic to sulfur. You may be allergic to sulfur, but not
What's the difference?
sulfur.
Because I can't do sulfur drugs.
Yeah,
What's the difference?
a sulfur drug is a drug that contains a molecule of sulfur in it, but it's a whole class of pharmacology. You're not allergic to the sulfur. You're allergic to the pharmacology of these sulfur drugs. The word sulfur refers to a category, a class of drugs that contains the molecule sulfur in it, but it's not sulfur. It's a class of pharmacological agents called sulfonylamides, and that's a whole category of prescription drugs that you may be allergic to. But you're not allergic to the sulfur. You're allergic to the prescription drug. And that, quick digression here, and I really want to say this, I hope everybody hears this because there's a lot of misunderstandings, not among people who know nutrition, but among the general public. You're not allergic to, you can't be allergic to a nutritional element. It's idiotic to even think that. How could you possibly be allergic to an essential nutrient? It's like saying I'm allergic to air. An essential nutrient is a nutrient that you have to have in your body, or you can't perform biochemical functions to the point you get a disease. How could you possibly be allergic to that? And I hear it all the time. I'm allergic to vitamin C. I'm allergic to vitamin E. I'm allergic to sulfur. It should not compute in your brain that you'd be allergic to an essential nutrient, because the definition of an essential nutrient is you die without it. So if you were really allergic, you wouldn't be here to tell us you were allergic, because you'd be dead.
Exactly. But that's one of the purposes of this show, Ben. People don't understand what the essential
I'm not talking to people in the show.
are.
People in the show probably know this, but to people you're talking to, people, I'm sure people who are listening to this aren't laboring under that illusion that you could be allergic to vitamin C. But the people we talk to, I guarantee you, Rebecca, you've heard one of your potential customers say, I can't have vitamin C. I'm allergic to vitamin C. And every time I hear that, I think, how could you possibly be allergic to an essential substance? That's like saying I'm allergic to air. You say, okay, great, then you're dead. If you're allergic to air. And that's the nature of essentiality. Sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, an essential nutrient is a nutrient that your body can't make and that you have to have. You've heard that, right? And that's how we define essentiality. That is true, definitely true, but that marginalizes how important an essential nutrient is. I like to say an essential nutrient is a nutrient that you're dead without. And that says it much more dramatically than it's a nutrient that your body can't make and that you have to get in your diet. That's true, but it sort of weakens its importance. If you say you're dead without an essential nutrient, then you say, I better get that essential nutrient in my body. Or if you say, you'll have a disease without an essential nutrient. See how that makes it much more important. And then when you hear its importance on that at that level, the scale of its value, in other words, that you're dead without it or you're suffering from a disease without it, you'll see how you can't be allergic to an essential nutrient. And you especially can't be allergic to an element. Now, they call them minerals, and I have a problem with that term because it's not really accurate. You can't be allergic to an element. It's not possible. There's no mechanism in place to be allergic to an element. So the next time somebody says they're allergic to sulfur, say, no, you may be allergic to sulfur, but you can't be allergic to an element or to an essential nutrient. Okay, so now that we've got that, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I remember when I first got started in coaching, I had a client that said they were allergic to sulfa drugs. They couldn't do sulfur. They were also allergic to vitamin C.
Yeah.
They had a brittle bone disease. They had a couple different joint replacements. And I'm thinking, and they didn't want to eat the cruciferous vegetables.
Because they're allergic to sulfur.
Because they were allergic to sulfur.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking now, looking back, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Right. Exactly.
Because
so that's why I think it's really that's why it's so important for us here. And I'm sure people listening to this call aren't under the misimpression that you could be allergic to a vitamin or mineral or an essential fatty acid or essential nutrient. But our customers are, and the people we're talking to are. And they run the risk, as you just pointed out, Rebecca, of dealing with health challenges because they're not interacting with sulfur because they think they're allergic to sulfur, or not interacting with vitamin C because they think they're allergic to vitamin C. So just to be clear, I know we just spent 5 minutes talking about it, but just to sum up and to be clear, you can't be allergic to an essential nutrient. And I don't want that to be something that is true because I just said it or I'm asserting it, but I want it to be logical. You can't be allergic to an essential nutrient because you'd be dead without that essential nutrient, in which case you wouldn't be here to tell us you're allergic to it. Right?
That is true.
Okay. All right.
So that's why this program is for educational purposes.
But not only.
But not only.
But not only.
That's
right.
It
is for educational purposes. But yeah, go ahead.
So let's go to AJ wants us to hit on this fire and brimstone when it comes to sulfur.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, tell me.
Why is it called brimstone?
Yes.
Well, brimstone is the old name for sulfur.
Okay.
And brimstone is was the culprit, the villain, when it came to hellfire. So you hear the term fire and brimstone, right? So historically, it was sulfur that it was associated with hellfire because of sulfur's explosive properties. Sulfur is a very, very active element, and it burns very readily, burns very hot. Sulfur burns very hot and very readily, and so brimstone or sulfur was associated with hell, which was associated with fire in the Middle Ages, even today in the Middle Ages. In fact, I don't know if they talk about fire in hell, like the fiery pit, the fiery lake of hell. I don't know if that's biblical or if that's Dante's Inferno, or if that's like medieval literature, or if it's actually biblical.
Well,
I don't think it's in the Bible, is it? They talk about lake of fire and all.
It is mentioned in the Bible, and depending on which denomination, fire and brimstone is preached. But
yes, so they might as well say fire and sulfur, because brimstone is the ancient name for sulfur.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Brimstone is brimstone is the ancient name for sulfur, and it's always been associated with fire, with hell. So yes.
Pharmacist Ben.
Yes, there's more. I want to tell you one more thing that's kind of interesting.
Okay, go for it. Tell me more.
Okay. And I know I'm just gonna say this because I think it's kind of cute and funny. One of the most important sulfur containing compounds in the body, and I say important because it's a very interesting type of transmitter. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that help nerves communicate to each other, right?
Right.
And they're chemicals. But there's another kind of transmitter that has communication properties that stinks like sulfur. You know what it's called? It's called fart.
Oh.
And I'm only kidding. I'm only saying that because I think it sounds funny, but it's actually called hydrogen sulfide, which is
Okay.
the stuff that makes gas that makes your gas smell. There's a few other things. Methane is another one, but hydrogen sulfide, it has that kind of smell that bacteria make it, and they, you emit it, and that's called a fart. But really, hydrogen sulfide is what's called a gasotransmitter. It's not a neurotransmitter. It's actually a gas chemical that has communication messages. It's a gas information molecule, like nitric oxide, which is another gas information conveyor, if you will. So the body doesn't just use chemicals to communicate, or cells, I should say, don't just use chemicals as communication elements. It also uses gas. And hydrogen sulfide, which is one of the reasons why farts smell, is actually very functional in the body as a gasotransmitter, which I think is pretty cool. I just wanted to bring that up because I just think it's interesting that we have these gas molecules. And hydrogen sulfide, which is gasotransmitter, very similar to nitric oxide, comes from sulfur-containing foods, particularly cysteine and methionine. Sulfur also is the molecule sulfur also has electrical communication or electrical signaling molecules, particularly at the level of the mitochondria. So sulfur in its hydrogen sulfide form actually has mitochondrial support properties. It's involved with what's called electron transport. Sulfate, and something really cool about sulfate is we were talking about earlier how there are certain molecules that are attached to sulfate, like glucosamine. Well, it turns out that in the body, sulfate, because of its electrical properties, can make fatty molecules more water soluble. Substances, without getting into too much chemistry, substances that do not dissolve in water are said to be non-polar. Non-polar is a really important chemistry idea. And like I said, I don't want to get into too much chemistry, but this is really cool and important. When something's non-polar, it doesn't have a pole. A pole is like the North Pole and the South Pole, right? When something's non-polar, it doesn't have a north and south. It's all smeared around. There's no distinct positive and negative. When something's polar, it has a distinct positive and negative. In fact, you can think of the word polar like pull. When something's polar, there's a pull from one direction to another. When something's non-polar, there's no pull. It's all smeared around. The electrical energy smeared around. What makes fats sticky, and I've often given this description of peanut butter and jelly on a spoon, right?
Yeah.
If you have peanut butter and jelly on a spoon, what rinses off in the water?
The jelly.
The jelly, because fats are sticky. And this is what makes fats unique and very, very important to understand, because most of our health problems, the vast majority of our chronic disease problems, involve fats. That's really, really important. Fat digestion, fat processing, rancid fats, cell membranes, which are fatty. So most of our health challenges are around fats because they're so sticky. Why are they sticky? Is because the electrical energy is smeared around like Velcro. What makes Velcro sticky is if you look at Velcro, it has lots of little tiny pieces. You ever look at a Velcro piece, like really a piece of Velcro really close? You can see lots of little hooks. They're tiny, tiny little hooks. And the spreading of those tiny hooks makes Velcro very sticky. Well, fats are the same way, except instead of little hooks, it's electrical energy, and the electrical energy is smeared all over the fatty molecule, and that gives it lots of places to grab. And that's why the body has to have all kinds of fancy schmancy chemistry to get fats released from foods. Fats don't get released from foods very effectively because there's lots of little pieces for the fats to stick together, just like peanut butter in a spoon. That, from a biochemical perspective, that's said to be non-polarity, unpolar, non-polar. If you could, however, stick something polar onto something non-polar, all of a sudden, that formerly non-polar stuff is going to become polar. And now it'll dissolve in water. And this is very interesting when it comes to cholesterol. Cholesterol is very sticky and it requires lots of chemistry for the body to be able to deal with it. And that's where LDL and HDL and all the lipoproteins come in. And that's what they really measure. Nobody ever measures cholesterol. They measure LDL and HDL. So, and they call them bad and good, but really it's just carriers for cholesterol. However, when you stick a sulfur or sulfate onto a cholesterol molecule, it now becomes polar and it will distribute through the bloodstream much more effectively. So by ingesting sulfur or ingesting sulfate, you can improve cholesterol metabolism by turning the nonpolar cholesterol molecule into a polar molecule. Make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's so much chemistry to
There
it.
is, but I want to tell you one more thing that's really interesting. Okay. So first, I want everybody to understand that by sticking a sulfate onto cholesterol, you render it water soluble or make it more water soluble so it can flow around better by making that non-polar sticky Velcro fat into something that's polar and can flow more effectively. So eating sulfur and eating sulfate can improve your cholesterol metabolism. And in fact, deficiencies in sulfur and sulfate may very well be behind many of the problems associated with cholesterol blockages. The cholesterol sticks. So sulfur and sulfate may be one of the mechanisms, ingestion of sulfur and sulfate may be one of the lifestyle strategies you can use to improve cholesterol blockages. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is because something that's really cool. One of the places where sulfur, the element, gets turned into electrical sulfate, which is very polar, is the sun. And nobody ever talks about this, but solar exposure on your skin will turn sulfur into sulfate, which will now be able to be used to help liquefy or make non-polar cholesterol and other substances more polar, which is a very important reason to get yourself out in the sun that your dermatologist doesn't know, or your skincare professional doesn't know, because your skincare professionals tell you not to get out in the sun. But you're depriving yourself of an ability to make sulfate by depriving yourself of solar exposure or by wearing sunscreen. What's even more valuable is when you electrify sulfur from the sun, you now have more electricity in your body. The sulfate carries an electrical charge, which not only acts like a polar molecule to make things water soluble, but it also is a source of electrical energy. So in this way, we are solar beings and our skin is a solar panel. You follow what I'm saying? By the action of sulfur. Sulfur is the mediating agency. Now, who knew all this stuff about sulfur, right? All this wonderful stuff about sulfur. You see why I love this molecule so much. So get yourself out in the sun, and not only will you be enjoying all the wonderful serotonin benefits and mood enhancing benefits and antimicrobial benefits of the sun, you'll also be electrifying your sulfur via the photonic energy from the sun, and you'll become more electrical. And at the end of the day, we're not chemical beings, we're electrical beings. You'll get more life force essentially from the sun via the action of sulfur. Is that cool or what? Come on, guys. Come on.
That's super cool.
That's
and
super
that just
cool.
reminds me, going to the gym this morning, it was like 19 degrees, but boy, that sun felt good.
Right. Love the sun. It amazes me how we misunderstand the sun and demonize the sun, and even our healthcare professionals, particularly dermatologists and skin folks, want people to stay out of the sun. Anyway, so sulfur is super duper important. You can think of sulfate as activated sulfur. The process of turning sulfur into sulfate is called sulfation. And sulfation, as I say, changes the solubility of molecules. It changes the activity of molecules. And the body will actually sulfate toxins to detoxify them, particularly estrogen. And sulfation is one of the ways that the liver clears out poisons by sticking. Based on what I just said, see if you can figure this out. Based on what I just said a couple minutes ago, the last couple of minutes, why would sulfation help improve detoxification?
Because everything's moving.
It makes things more water soluble. So instead of being sticky, now they flow and you can eliminate them more effectively. And this is one of the ways the body detoxifies poisons. Poisons tend to be fatty. Why? Because they stick. They don't move. But if you can attach a sulfur molecule or sulfate that fat, whether it's estrogen or whatever kind of toxin you're talking about, you improve its elimination. All of which is to say, eat sulfur, eat cruciferous vegetables, eat sulfur amino acids, eat MSM, supplemental sulfur, eat beans and onions and garlic and eggs and anywhere where you can get sulfur. And as you mentioned earlier, you can tell that a food contains sulfur by its stinkiness, particularly as it gets old, like when milk gets old, or when eggs get old, rotten eggs, or when any sulfur-containing food gets old, it starts to release sulfur. Beans, when beans get old, they start to release sulfur. So eat your stinky foods, eat your stinky veggies, eat your stinky beans, eat your stinky proteins, and honor the stink. Whether the stink is a fart or a hydrogen sulfide or it's a rotten egg, love the stink, because the stink is sulfur.
Okay, so let me make
You
sure
see
that
why I
I've
love
got
this stuff
right.
so much, by the way. What's that?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, sulfur, especially in your business, is super important. But let me make sure I got this right. Okay. So sulfur being the most abundant element,
One of.
molecule.
One of.
Okay.
It's not the most abundant.
Number 3. It's said to be number 3.
3 on Earth or 3 in the body? Is it that high?
Within the body. It's the
It's
most
number 3 in the body?
Yep. It's like a
Carbon?
1/4%.
I don't think that's, is that true? I don't think that's true. I think it's less than
I
that.
found
But
it in 3 different.
the most abundant elements in the body are called the chenops elements. Have you heard of chenops?
I haven't heard of
Chenops is
chenops.
carbon, chenops, CHNOPS, carbon,
Okay.
hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And I think sulfur is last. If I'm not mistaken, somebody's doing research over there. They should check. I think sulfur is last. It's good. I think it's in that order. Probably not in that order, actually. I think hydrogen's first, and then carbon, and then nitrogen. Sulfur's up there, though. I think sulfur's 5th. But go ahead.
Okay,
Either way, it's up there.
My research was at minerals, not elements. So
Yeah.
they're saying number 1 is calcium.
Yeah.
Number 2 is phosphorus.
No, number 1's
Number
carbon.
3
Calcium's not
sulfur.
number 1. I don't know what you're reading, but
Well,
none of
based
that's
on
true.
minerals.
No.
That's
Carbon is.
Even John Hopkins said it.
No, I don't. Then I'm not understanding something, because minerals do not exist in the body except in the bones and the teeth. Oh, maybe that's what they're talking about. I see. That's what they're talking about. Okay, that makes sense then.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Not the elements, the minerals. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, but
that's
go
what
ahead.
It is. Their abundance within the body.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me make sure that I have this right, because we're talking about sulfur. I want to make sure we got the primary roles. So it's for protein structure, sulfur is needed to support methionine and cysteine.
It is not to support it. It's a key component of methionine and cysteine.
A key component of. Okay.
Yeah.
So for detoxification, then we have it's the key component for glutathione.
Correct.
And sulfation.
Yeah.
For skin, hair, nails, we're looking at keratin and collagen.
All of that. Don't forget insulin. Don't forget insulin.
I'm getting there.
Okay,
Joint
gotcha.
and connective tissue.
Okay. That's because of the glucose, the snot, and the collagen. Snot.
Yes. Which AJ made a silly.
Is he making jokes?
Silly comment.
Okay.
So about, kids that are eating their snot. It's like,
no, I'm talking about mucus. When I say snot, kids don't eat snot. They eat boogers. That's different. They eat the solid stuff. They eat this. I don't want to get too gross here, but the mucus that we're talking about is the slimy stuff. Nobody eats the slimy stuff. The slimy stuff is the stuff that has all the activity, not the dried out, desiccated chunks.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't want to go there too much.
No,
and don't forget the key amino acid that nobody ever talks about, unfortunately, which I use in my skincare products, called taurine, which is important for the eyes, important for the skin, important for the heart. Taurine is what gives Red Bull its name. Red Bull contains taurine, Taurus the bull. Taurine is named for Taurus the bull. That's why we call it Red Bull. Did you know that? You probably knew that.
I did not know that.
Well, there you go. And that's a sulfur amino acid. It's the weirdest of all the amino acids because it's not really incorporated into proteins. You know how we always say amino acids are incorporated into proteins? Taurine's not. Taurine is actually an independent. It's the only independent amino acid that works independently, and it's a sulfur amino acid.
Okay.
Okay. And then
going deep.
Yeah, and then the hardening property, where you have hardening, the hardening of sulfur. Bottom line, eat your sulfur. Lots of it.
Eat your sulfur.
Yes. And
It's also
we also forgot about the hormones. Sulfation is involved in hormone activity. Sulfation means attaching a sulfur to a molecule, is important for steroid hormones. It helps steroid hormones travel through the blood. It's important for steroid hormone detoxification, especially for women. And then also thyroid hormone plays a role in the production, in the processing of thyroid hormones. We'll say the regulation of thyroid.
well,
And
the
detoxification
excellent
of drugs
structure.
too, by the way. If you're on, the more drugs you're taking, prescription drugs or even non-prescription drugs, the more you need, the more sulfur you need. It's important for detoxification of drugs.
Yes.
And by the way, sulfate, which is that polar molecule that makes things more water soluble, is it doesn't just float around. It's actively transported. There are actually receptors and carriers that help bring sulfate into the blood through the intestine, that help control blood sulfate levels at the level of the kidneys, and also allow sulfate to be taken into the liver for storage in the liver. So sulfur is really really important, as is sulfate for electrification. Of course, more sunshine you get, the more activation of sulfur and more transformation into sulfate.
It's just super important.
Super important. Super important.
It's for
And
structural.
and sulfite is an additive. It's not sulfate, and that is confusing. Sulfite has a different electronic nature than sulfate, and you can be sensitized to sulfite, not sulfate. And I know that's a little
Gotcha.
much if you're not a chemist, but it's important to make that distinction.
Well, I like that you pointed that out, because like they use a lot of sulfites in
Preservative.
wine.
Yeah, and
Wine.
I don't know, do they add them, or is it part of the wine? Is it part of the grape? I don't know
You
the
know,
answer.
I don't know,
I don't know either. I'm
but
not a
it does
wine
not
person.
like me.
Yeah, it could be
Or
the
I don't like
sulfite.
it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
All
so
right.
we're looking at structural and it's the structural and detox backbone of the metabolism.
It's involved in detoxification. It's involved in structure. It's involved in signaling. And anything else? That's basically it. Structural, biochemical, and signaling. Those are the places. Detoxification and signaling.
Okay. Well, we have hands up, so let's get to the questions.
Yes.
AJ, unmute yourself. Stop picking your nose. Come on. Kids.
I'm getting my sulfur in.
No, when you sneeze, just wipe it back up and suck it up your nose.
Oh, all right. And pharmacist, that is a special note from Pharmacist Ben. Pharmacist Ben, we got bunches of questions.
Yes.
And I'm gonna start with this one. If you had lunch already, turn away from the screen. All right, so this is a message from one of our viewers. Been working with a health coach on gut health, and also a naturalist with herbs and stuff. It's gotten to the point where it gets close to healing and then around and gets worse than ever. It hurts and stings like crazy.
What hurts and stings? There's an ulceration or a wound or something?
Do you see what's on the screen?
Not now, but okay, I can help you with that. Okay,
And
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Okay.
Wait, keep looking while you're talking.
Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, gotcha. Is this all the same person?
Yes.
Okay, is this an elderly person or older person?
I'm gathering it's an older person from this photo.
Yeah, okay. So, and this person, they said they had some digestive stuff?
Didn't mention digestive.
Okay, so this is a major sign of malabsorption of fats and fatty vitamins. Now, it could be that they're just not taking any, but I would guess that there's malabsorption issues. That's a serious fat problem. That's called fish skin, or ichthyosis is the technical name for it. And what it means is the skin cells are not dividing rapidly, probably because there's not enough moisture in the skin. Not enough moisture in the skin could be due to a lack of connective tissue. And then winter time makes it worse. Winter will get blamed for this skin, but winter is not the cause. Winter will make the problem worse, and you'll observe the problem. Either you'll observe it as worse or you'll observe it, period, during the wintertime, but it's not the wintertime. You should be able to handle that. So the couple strategies. First of all, fats. Fats, 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 fats. If the person is ingesting fats, ingest more. And I'll tell you what kind of fats here in a second, because it's specifically type of fats. But if they're not ingesting fats, they need to ingest more. If they are ingesting fats, and lots of them, it could be malabsorption, or it could be a combination. Because remember, fats are the hardest thing. We have fatty stuff and watery stuff. People don't have an issue typically, unless they're really sick, absorbing watery stuff. It's the fatty stuff. And when I say fats, I mean A, essential fatty acids. This person should be taking 12 to 15 to 20 ultimate EFAs a day. Now, we're a little bit at a disadvantage here because we don't know this person. Is this person on the call?
Not on the call.
Okay, so we don't know this person. So maybe this person doesn't have a gallbladder, right? Or maybe this person has fatty liver disease, both of which are going to compromise fat absorption. Maybe this person has a history of gallstones. Maybe this person has irritable bowel or Crohn's disease or celiac disease. So we got to know all these things in order to make an accurate recommendation or put them on a protocol. However, assuming this is a normal person, which is unlikely, but assuming that, EFAs, lots of them. Vitamin A, lots of it. That's almost a demonstration of what happens when you have vitamin A deficiency, that picture. So vitamin A. Now, also vitamin E, although that's not as important, it's not involved in biochemistry as much, it's still going to be important. And vitamin K, although not as much as vitamin A, and to a certain extent vitamin D, and essential fatty acids. Those are your superstars. Then there are minerals. Interestingly, there's two minerals that are very important for the skin that are handled by the fatty part of the body, by fat absorption. That's zinc and selenium. And it's no accident that those are probably the two most important minerals for the skin because they have this fatty nature to them. So I'd be doing extra zinc and extra selenium. Then the ingesting the slimy stuff. The slimy stuff helps the tissues hold on to water. What's our favorite slimy, longevity slimy slime? FucoidZ.
Okay.
Another thing is the water in the skin. I know we've talked about it before, but this is really important and nobody ever addresses this. The water in the skin is not the same as the water you drink. And I hope everybody on this call recognizes there's different types of water. Not all water is the same. The water we drink is incoherent from a tap is incoherent. It's like a light bulb. A light bulb, you can't do any work with a light bulb because the light bulb is scattering its rays incoherently. They're thrown out all over. But if you can make a light bulb or the energy from a light bulb or the light from a light bulb coherent, you can turn it into a weapon that'll destroy a tank, or you can turn it into a CD player, or you can turn it into a surgical scalpel. What am I talking about here? A laser. Yeah. What is the difference between light that comes from a laser and light that comes from a light bulb?
It's focused.
Coherency. Coherency. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, coherency. Hello?
We're here.
We're here.
Can you
hear? Now you just muted yourself.
How about now?
We hear you. Do you
okay,
hear
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry about that. So the difference between a light bulb light and a laser light is coherency. The difference between and coherency means you can do stuff with it. It becomes active and functional. The difference between the water from a tap and the water in your body is the same thing, coherency. The water in your body is like a laser water. It's coherent water. It's functional water. It has much better hydrating properties, much better communication properties, much better electrical energy and information transfer properties. And so it's called structured water, or coherent water, or crystallized water, or easy water. There's many names. So you can see that you want the water in your body, for the skin especially, to be coherent. How does the water stay coherent? There's three cohering elements in the body that make the water coherent. And making sure that you're building these cohering molecules or ingesting these cohering molecules is important for the skin, for skin health, because all the enzymes in the chemistry in the skin depend on coherent water, not incoherent water. Hydrating and softening of the tissue depends on coherent water, not incoherent water. So we need to cohere the water. Is this making sense? Do you follow me? We need to structure the water. The three structuring elements are collagen. So building collagen, your collagen peptides, your fucoidin, your TMR shake, amino acids, all the amino acids that are important for building collagen, bone soup and bone broth and organ meats, topically using retinol and vitamin C and alpha hydroxy acids. These are all strategies for building collagen to make the water more coherent, so it makes your skin more hydrated. You with me?
Yes.
The second element is snot, slime. One of the functions of slime, particularly hyaluronic acid and other GAGs, they call them, GAGs, glycosaminoglycans, which contain sulfur, is to cohere the water. The water will cohere by virtue of the slime. In fact, snot itself is an example of coherent water. What makes snot slimy is the fact that it's trapping water. That's why it has that slimy quality. It's holding on to water, structuring water. That's the second element. If you took snot, hypothetically, you can't really do this, but if you took snot, mucus, we'll call it mucus, forget snot. We'll call it mucus.
Thank you.
If you took mucus and you squeezed it, would water come out of it?
I
No.
guess.
No.
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't. You can't take slime, mucus and press on it and have the water leak out.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? Why is that? Because the water is, or it's trapped, it's locked up, it's structured in connection with the hyaluronic acid and the GAGs. You follow? You know, your body is 70% water. You would think I could squeeze my arm and water would come out, but you can't because the water is a different type of water. It's a locked in water. It's a solid water, pseudo solid. It's not exactly solid, but it's like a liquid solid. It's a cross between a liquid and a solid. And so that, and we call that, by the way, we have a word for something that's a cross between a liquid and a solid. You know what we call it?
Plasma.
Close. We call it a gel.
Gel. Okay.
A gel is a cross between liquid and solid. And you can't squeeze a gel and have the water drip out of it. That's not going to happen because the water is locked up. The third element, and this for us is really important, that structures water is ionic minerals, ionic electrolytes that are distributed in the water, lock up the water, tie the water, organize the water. So the combination of ionic minerals, collagen, and glucosaminoglycans structure the water, which means for this lady, or I think it was a lady, make sure you're eating your slimy substances, bone soup, hyaluronic acid, your pig pack, your fucoidin. Make sure you're getting your ionic elements from your Beyond Tangy Tangerine, your plant-derived minerals, and then make sure you're building collagen. That's one of the most important roles of collagen, is it structures the water to make us more coherent. Aging and disease are incoherence. That arm is an example of aging and disease. It's an incoherent, the water in that arm is incoherent. So we've got to organize the water, and by building collagen, all the collagen building strategies, using hyaluronic acid supplements or bone broth or fucoidin and your ionic plant-derived minerals, that's in addition to your EFAs and your vitamin A. That is a fat condition of fats and incoherent water. If she has digestive issues, those need to be corrected.
Pharmacist Ben, thank you very much. It's a good thing that I have the benefit to rewind what you say.
I know there's tons of stuff, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and I put it in a notebook and I try and decipher and I do everything I can to study it. Pharmacist Ben, we have 8 minutes and 6 questions. So,
go ahead. And you guys, listen, I know we like talking about various topics, Becca and AJ and everybody on the call, but there's no way to answer somebody fully, like in a minute. I don't feel comfortable saying, take this, take that. I don't know if that's what people want to hear, take this, take that, but I can't do that. So every question requires a certain amount of time. So,
listen, I'm with you, which is why you do 10 shows a week. I mean, you know,
correct.
I understand. I got a text. Doctor wants to do a heart valve surgery, put it in a pig valve, and then I guess it's a different customer. It says customer has heard of PGG, pentogliogluco, and it's water soluble. Taking that dissolves calcium buildup in the arteries. He keeps calling about where to get the PGG.
Oh, they don't want to. They don't want to. They don't want help with the calcium build. They want to know where the where to get PGG.
Well, I mean, I guess we want an alternative to putting in a pig valve. So I'm gathering, they read somewhere they can get PGG.
All right. So let me tell you about PGG. Okay. So PGG, which is pentogalleyl glucose, is a natural molecule that stabilizes deteriorating connective tissue. It keeps the connective tissue stable so the body doesn't have to put calcium, doesn't need a Band-Aid. Calcium is a Band-Aid. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yes, sir.
So the logic of PGG is to stabilize the connective tissue so that you don't need to have calcium patch it up. But the real problem is, why is this person's connective tissue deteriorating? That's the problem. Now, I could tell you how knuckleheaded it is for the medical model to put a pig valve in the connective tissue when it's deteriorating, but realistically speaking, unless this person wants to completely change their life and stop doing the things that destroy connective tissue and start doing the things that build connective tissue, that's what they're left with. That's the option. So it's not the doctor's fault that they're coming up with these Rube Goldberg strategies, these crazy strategies of putting weird things in to hold this in place, that in place, or we have chemical strategies to keep calcium from sticking to the connective tissue. Really, what we should be doing is making sure we're not destroying our connective tissue. What destroys connective tissue? What's the most important?
Oils,
fried foods, oils. The most important probably is sugar, glycation, smoking. We're destroying our connective tissue. What builds the connective tissue? Nutritional supplementation,
MSM.
exercise, right? So if you don't want to do what you
sunlight,
right? So then you're left with these strategies of sticking metal and meshes and stents and all these little fake valves and fake tissue and then taking pentogalleyl glucose, PGG. Why are we doing this, people? Why are we so desperate for these ridiculous strategies when all we need to do is be using your Mighty 90 essential nutrients, not smoking, not eating lots of fried foods and carbohydrates? We're paying the price, and then we go to the doctor. Now, I love doctors. I said it all the time. I'll continuously say it. You're probably sick of hearing me say it, but it's really important. I'm not one of those guys that rips on doctors. But the fact of the matter is, if you go to court and tell them the evidence is doctored, that means you're committing a fraud. And that's really what's happening when you stick something in the body to make it look like it's healthy and say, oh, no, you're healthy now. You have this rubber metal pipe in there and it's expanding everything. So now your blood's going to flow. Or we've rerouted the blood, the vessels from one end to the other and done a bypass, and now you're healthy. We've doctored you, so you're now healthy. Of course you're not healthy.
Right.
Of course you're not. You've been doctored.
Yeah.
You've been jury rigged.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you have a car and the trunk is popped off and there's no glass in the window and the bumper is falling down.
You get plastic bags.
Yeah, you get a plastic bag and you get water. Say, oh, now your car's fine.
Car's great.
Now your car's great. No, it's not. It's been doctored. You know?
Pharmacist Ben, I'm going to get off the screen. Maybe you can attack another one.
Hey, one more.
This is from our friend Patty. Can you ask the man, myth and legend Pharmacist Ben, are there any dangers on getting testosterone shots for men?
All right. It's not that it's dangerous, but with hormones, and we have a whole industry of hormone replacement. We have hormone replacement factories where you go in and you go out, and they test your hormones, they give you hormones, they make tons of money, and they drive fancy cars, and they're all big shots because they have a hormone replacement factory. So that's what you're up against. It's impossible to start targeting one hormone and not affect an entire web of hormones. Testosterone is linked to estrogen. It's linked to progesterone. It's linked to insulin. It's linked to thyroid hormone. It's linked to about 6 different analogs or metabolites or derivatives of testosterone, androstenedione and androstene, and there's zillions of them. They're all connected, and you can't pick on one and not have it affect the entire scheme. It's not possible. So is it dangerous? If that's not the right word, it's not that it's dangerous, although it could potentially be dangerous. It's that it disrupts the entire web. It's like a spider web. If you touch over here, you're going to affect the entire web. And there's no way to avoid that because everything is linked and connected. On the other hand, if you work with the body via supplements and nutrition, the body will do everything. The most important way to get more androgenic effects or have more masculine qualities is to reduce insulin resistance. The major reason why men have problems as they get older with their male hormones, in addition to making less, is insulin resistance. When you're resistant to insulin, you're going to be resistant to testosterone. So insulin resistance throws off everything. It's the master switch, which is why the most important thing you could do next to work on your digestive health is work on your metabolic health, your blood sugar health. Dr. Rebecca, she wrote an entire book about it, called Metabolic Syndrome. So yes, you can take testosterone, but the problem there is you run all kinds of risks of throwing off your DHT, your estrogen, your other testosterone metabolites or derivatives, progesterone, DHEA, the whole scheme of steroid hormone synthesis is going to be thrown off, not to mention thyroid hormone and insulin. So it's not that it's dangerous, it's that you're going to throw everything else off, and there's no way to know what's going to be thrown off and how much is going to be thrown off and how you can adjust it all. It's just this whole mess, this Pandora's box of steroid hormone disaster. So it's not like you're going to it's not dangerous on its own. You're just going to throw everything, all the balance of everything off, and understand that there's a marketing and money and financial and economic incentive for you to be put on hormone replacement therapy. There are businesses that whose their whole income stream depends on putting people on estrogen, women on estrogen, and men on testosterone.
Okay, Pharmacist Ben, we're at the top of the hour almost. Several questions. Here's a quick one. Is FucoidZ as effective slimy as ZRadical?
ZRadical is for children. It tastes sweet. It's a nice little tonic. You could do it's delicious, you know. Kids like it. It's not real medicine. Real medicine is ZRadical. You'll get a little medicinal value from the ZRadical, but the medicine is in the Fucoidin, which is in those capsules.
Okay.
ZRadical is just a tasty beverage with some activity.
All right.
You never hear me talk about ZRadical. I know it's probably there's people get mad about that, but I always talk about FucoidZ. That's the medicine. Yes. In pharmacy, we say the dose makes the medicine, and you're getting much more activity in Fucoidin in those capsules than you are in the drink.
All right. Well, that's the one I take. So
that's the one you want.
Thank you so much, Pharmacist Ben. I know we didn't get to everybody's questions. We are going to have Pharmacist Ben
Monday, Bright Bites. We'll just do questions, AJ. Questions only.
Okay.
Bring your questions. I'll answer questions the whole time, even if I have to go later.
Sounds good. Fantastic.
Bye, everybody.
If we could get the co-hosts up on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pharmacist Ben. Folks.
And thank you, Phyllis and Marilyn and Ruth Ellen. I don't see Ruth Ellen, but thank you to Ruth Ellen, wherever she may be, and Becca, as always, and AJ, as always. You guys who are listening, we've got the best team here. We've got all of these people are so dedicated to helping people get better and understand the longevity products and the longevity business. Props to everybody. Yay. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Yes, it's not just a hobby for us, folks. This is what we do, our calling, our purpose. So, folks, if you're looking for a calling, a purpose, make sure that you get back with the person that shared this program with you, because there is a huge need for individuals who care about others, who want to empower and make sure that others know that there's things that we can do all on our own in adjusting our lifestyle, including what we put in our mouth, what we don't put in our mouth, that can help us go from barely surviving to thriving. So again, get back to the person that shared this program with you. If there is no one to thank, we do have a call team of certified holistic health coaches by calling 855-949-3377. Again, that's 855-949-3377. Now, if we did not get to your question today, Monday is going to be all questions. Make sure that you email us questions@dailywithdoc.com, questions@dailywithdoc.com. And if you're interested in learning more and become a certified holistic health coach, you can get some more information on that by going to coach, COACH.dailywithdoc.com. Folks, my name is Becca Dukes. I'm a certified holistic health coach, a certified naturopathic practitioner, the director of student services for the Institute of Holistic Health. And I believe in this message so much because of what it has done for my life. And I can't thank Dr. Joel Wallach enough, which I know the people on the screen with me right now agree with me, including the person with his hand up. AJ.
Last week, Dr. Conaway mentioned that she had a new protocol that she was going to send. I was wondering if you received that.
Yes, I do have that now. That is for the dynamic duo for the parasite cleanse. So we will be getting that out to those who have emailed us at questions@dailywithdoc.com requesting that protocol.
So we will get that out. And then also, if you had emailed wanting Jen Salt's answer to supplement questions, we'll be sending those out today too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, AJ. And thank you, Phyllis and Marilyn, both, as they were doing some tag team in the chat. Phyllis was bringing in questions that we didn't even get to from out on the different platforms. Albert, unfortunately, having internet issues, and he was in and out, but he was still here with us in spirit. You know, folks, and I know Ruth Ellen's here with us in spirit. So is Sherry. Folks, we just are excited to be part of a family that is our chosen family, and there's room for you as well. AJ, it did go, and then it just stops, but there you go. There's some love for you all. Thank you so much for joining us here on Daily with Doc and Becca on Pharmacist Friday. Until next time, make sure, don't forget, go to dailywithdoc.com, sign up for our newsletter, make sure that you're getting the information you need so you don't miss an episode. Our newsletter is being put together. That's going to be going out weekly. I'm super excited with the content that we're putting together. And if you're watching us on any of the platforms, make sure you like, you subscribe, but most of all, share this information. It could be life transforming for somebody you know. Bye for now.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We're honored to continue and share the teachings of the founding father of science of epigenetics, Dr. Joel Wallach.